Hi guys, welcome to our second trig lesson, trig lesson 2, where we're going to apply what we learned in lesson 1, which is setting up our trig ratios, and we're going to use our trig ratios to find missing sides. Remember, sine of our angle of interest, and right here our angle of interest is marked with theta. Sine would be our opposite leg over the hypotenuse, that would be our ratio or our fraction. Cosine of our angle of interest would be our adjacent leg over our hypotenuse, that fraction. And then tangent of our angle of interest is the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. Now we're going to use calculator for practically all of this. And I'll tell you how I want you to set it up. But on your calculator, I want you to go ahead and look for, you have trig functions. They're written in white, and they're sin for sine, cos for cosine, and tan for tangent. These are already on your calculator. They're kind of in between the division sign and the pi sign along that road. And when we're writing these things, like sine of angle A is just simply written as sine A. Okay, we also want to make sure you're set on degrees, not radians. So to set your calculator to degree, you're going to make sure you press the mode button. Make sure you highlight degrees, and then second, quit. Now that we're all set and ready, let's go ahead and get started on this. Label each of the sides, adjacent, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse, then create a trig ratio equation that can be used to find both missing sides. Well, this given angle right here, that's my angle of interest. So I'm going to label this as my opposite, my hypotenuse, and my adjacent. So I'm looking for C or B. Those are the ones that I don't know. I'm going to have to do two separate trig ratios. So let's see. Let's just pick one we want to do first. Let's look for B first. This is the one we're looking for. We've been given O, okay, and we're looking for A. Remember, we've got so, ka, toa. All right, I'm given O, which is here and here, so I can use sine or tangent depending on what else I have. I'm looking for B. B is the A, so that means I was given this one. So for B, I want to use tan. And it's going to be tangent of that 40-degree angle equals my opposite, which was 10, over my adjacent, which is my letter B I'm looking for. Now we're just going to use our algebra to solve. 10 divided by B. The opposite of dividing by B is to multiply by B on both sides. When I do that, I get B times tan 40 equals 10. Remember, I'm trying to get B by itself. The opposite of this multiplication here is to do division. So I'm going to divide both sides by tan 40. Now you're going to use your calculator. This is the time I want you to pick your calculator up, not up here. And I want you to turn it on, and I want you to press your fraction button. And in the top of your fraction button, you're going to type a 10. And then in the bottom, you're going to press your TAN button, 40. Come out from under your fraction, press enter, and you find out that B is approximately equal to 11.9175 and so on and so forth. Let's round to the hundredths place. 92. Okay, well, that gives me B, approximately 11.92. We're in centimeters, about. Now, when I go to find C, I don't want to use the B that I just found, because what if I got it wrong? So I'm going to go back to my given information. So I've got the opposite, so I can either do sine or tangent, and I'm looking now for this one, which is H. H is in sine. So now I'm going to do sine, that 40-degree angle, equals, remember, it's opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite was 10. My hypotenuse is the letter C I'm looking for. Now notice our variable down here, B, was in the denominator as well. I'm going to end up following all the same algebra where I multiply by c on both sides and then turn around and divide by sine 40. So I'm going to just shortcut this. Just c is going to be equal to 10 divided by sine 40. And you can follow this math over here to figure out why that is. And I'm just going to go to my calculator. I'm going to press my fraction button, 10 in the top, press sine 40 in the bottom, and I get c is equal to approximately, let's round to the nearest hundredth, 15.56 centimeters. Excellent. So now let's come over here and let's look at this one. This is my angle of interest. It's the only angle I have. I'm going to label my triangle based on it. Okay. So now I know my adjacent side, I don't know the hypotenuse, and I don't know the opposite side, which is AC. I'm going to assign AC, segment AC, is going to be my X, and AB, I'm going to have that equal my Y, just to make it a little easier to work with. Okay, I've got adjacent this time. Now, adjacent is in cosine and in tangent. I won't be using sine. So if I'm going to be looking for my hypotenuse, which is h, and I've got a and h in play, that's going to be cosine. So I'm going to do cosine of 64.5 equals adjacent, which is my 17, over y, which is what I've labeled my hypotenuse. Remember, when the variable is in the denominator, this is going to end up being 17 divided by cosine 64.5. Put it into the calculator, where I have 17 as my numerator, and then cosine 64.5 as my denominator. And I end up with y is approximately equal to 39.49. And then when I go to look at side AC, which is my X, that's where I've got my O in play. So an O and an A, I find O and A in tangent. So I would use tan 64.5 equals my opposite, which is just, I've labeled as X, over my adjacent, which is 17. Now my variable's in the numerator. These are even easier. To get this X divided by 17 to get X by itself, I'm just going to multiply by 17 on both sides. And I end up with 17 times tan 64.5 equals my X. And now I'm ready to go to the calculator, and that's exactly what I'm going to put in. 17 parentheses, and then tan 64.5. I hit enter. 35.64 is approximately equal to my X value. Okay, let's set up a trig ratio for each of these. This is my angle of interest. Remember, I said it could be one of the ones that you've been given. Doesn't always have to be question mark or X or theta. Excuse me. So I'm going to label based off this angle of interest, and I'm only going to label what I have, because that's all I need to use. I've got my adjacent and my opposite. So when I look at SOHCAHTOA, and I've got an O and an A, the only one that has O and A in it is tangent. So I would do tan 40 equals my opposite, which is X, over my adjacent, which is 2. Multiply both sides by 2. So tan 40 times 2 is going to be equal to my X. Go to calculator, 2 parentheses tan 40. And I get 1.68. We were in feet. It's approximately equal to X. When I go to my next example, mark my angle of interest. I'm only going to label what I have, which is my hypotenuse and my opposite. opposite and hypotenuse, OH, is only sine. So it's going to be sine of 45 equals my opposite, which is 6, over my hypotenuse, which is x. So remember, we would multiply by x on both sides and then divide by sine 45. So x equals 6 divided by sine 45. I'm going to put that in my calculator using my fraction button. Please use your fraction button, because if you don't do, otherwise kids a lot of times don't use the parentheses correctly and you get the wrong answer. And I get x exactly equals 6 root 2 units. And when I toggle, I get 8.49 approximately. Okay, we're going to look for these as well. I'm going to go ahead and label. I have my hypotenuse and my adjacent hypotenuse. That is my part of SOHCAHTOA. So I'm going to have cosine 20 equals adjacent over my hypotenuse, which is x. When that's in the denominator, that's when you end up basically swapping them. These two end up swapping basically based on the output that you saw in the very first example. So again, fraction button. 15 is the numerator. Cosine 20 will be the denominator. And you end up with x is approximately to 15.96 meters. Okay, we've just got some more examples here. Angle of interest. This is my opposite and my adjacent. So that's going to be TOA. So tan 32 equals opposite of 9 over adjacent of x. Set up and solve the exact same way. We're going to look at a couple more. I'm going to show you how to set them up and work on them in your going to lose some time here from trying to arc your angle of interest. We have opposite and adjacent. Remember, opposite and adjacent is TOA. So you would have tan 48 equals your opposite, which is your x, adjacent is 5. And you would multiply both sides by 5. Angle of interest. You have your hypotenuse and your adjacent. That is your cosine of 29 equals your adjacent over your hypotenuse. Same thing with these. You have your opposite hypotenuse, so you would have sine 60 equals x over 6. Here you have your opposite, your hypotenuse. This one would be sine 30 equals 5 divided by x. Okay, and this one you're given both angles. Same thing over here. You can just choose which one you want to be your angle of interest. I just usually read from left to right, so I'm going to go here, and this is going to give me my hypotenuse that I'm looking for. And then I'm going to label this as my opposite. So I would do sine of 60 equals my opposite over my hypotenuse. Okay, this would solve for the missing sides. Again, you could choose, if I'm taking, this is my angle of interest, this is my opposite, my hypotenuse, and this is adjacent. So if I was going to look for my hypotenuse, I could do sine of 20, there's more than one way, is my opposite, which is my 6, over my hypotenuse, which is z, and then I could do tan of 20, which is my opposite of 6, over my adjacent, which is x. Alright guys, we're about out of time. I'll try to finish this up in the next little video.